Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm happy to be here with you. It's a new year. Yep, 2023. Now, how many times are you going to get that wrong until it sinks in? If you're like me, it's going to take a couple of weeks. I always write the wrong date on checks and on documents for a few days. It just hasn't clicked that it's a new year. And with a new year comes lots of new expectations. I don't set New Year's resolutions. Maybe you do. Most of the research says that people don't even keep them a month. So I'm not going to make something just for the sake of throwing it away. If you do, that's great. But what I do want to do is think about this week about God. Well, okay, I've been doing that for several years now on these devotions, but to think about it in a new kind of a way. Here we are, a new year. Lots of the old problems are still here. Yeah, they didn't go away. There are going to be lots more problems this year. Yeah, they're not going away either. But in the midst of those, our lives can be something different. There's a word in the Bible for this year. Actually, there's a lot of them, but I picked this one. And it's one that I've mentioned before. Those of you who come to my church and listen, this will ring a bell with you because it's the very first thing I ever preached on. And it comes from the prophet Habakkuk, chapter 1 and verse 5. Here's what it says. Look out at the nations and watch, and be utterly amazed. For I am going to do something in your days that you would not believe, even if I told you. Now, this word comes to the prophet in the midst of wondering what's going to happen to the nation of Israel. And in the Old Testament, as you may or may not know, the nation of Israel constantly had problems, and it constantly got in trouble, and bad things happened because of it. But yet, in the midst of all that, God speaks, and he speaks to this lonely, fairly unknown prophet out in the wilderness. And he says those words, look and watch. In other words, he's calling the people of Israel, and he's calling you and me. Test him. Check it out. Don't just take it at face value. Look. Look around. See what you see. See the difficulties. See the problems. See the struggles. Just look. But, he says, in the midst of all of that, I'm going to do something. I'm going to work in your life in a way that you won't believe, even if I told you ahead of time. See, God is the God of the impossible, the God of miracles, the God of wonder, the God who, regardless, is always there. So think about your life. Maybe it's going along real well. Maybe it's just smoothing on into the future. Maybe it's got a few ups and downs, but it's still basically going forward. And maybe your life is just an old gnarled up mess. And it looks like there's no hope for anything. I have a friend who keeps struggling with finding meaning in his life. But I keep telling him, and he keeps telling me, thanks for saying it. I got to hear it, and I'm going to trust God even though I don't see it. I keep telling him, God's going to do something in your life. Now, I'm not one of these preachers who's trying to smooth over the garbage and smile and say, God's going to do it for you. No, I'm not one of those. I'm pretty much a realist. Yeah, I am. Uh, but I know because I have experienced it and because God has spoken to me and I can trust God's plans. Maybe you can't do that, or maybe you think you can't do that. See, God's plans may not be my plans. And if they're not, then I got to follow His. But I know I can trust, and I'm looking forward to what is going to happen. Even though I see problems in our political world, problems in our social world, rumors and wars that aren't rumors, that people are dying, sicknesses that are taking over some people's lives, families that are struggling how to make ends meet, and I see others who just get devastated when some disaster happens they weren't expecting. And maybe you're in one of those situations. And if you are, then here's the word for you and for this year. The Lord says, I'm going to do something in your days, in your midst, that you wouldn't believe, even if I told you ahead of time. Now, God's not going to tell us ahead of time. But even if He did, we still couldn't believe it. Now, this coming year, I'd like for you to think about that. I'd like for you to get a hold of this notion that God is going to work in your life in ways you have no idea of. And keep that. Hang on to it. Because it's true. Because that's what God is saying. Well, I hope you'll think about that. I really do. And I hope that over the days ahead, you'll keep thinking about it, one way or the other. But as you go along, if you have a problem or a need, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Thanks for listening to me today. I'll be back all this week. Talk about some things about the new year. God bless you. You have a great day.